There is a feature which seems to have taken over the headlines when it comes to true wireless earbuds announcements as of late, and that's spatial audio with head tracking. And even though I still have some reservations about this technological advancement, I kind of promised myself to have a more open mind after my AirPods Pro review. And 1MORE couldn't have timed the announcement of their latest and greatest earbuds any better, as it gives me the perfect opportunity to immerse myself a little bit deeper into spatial audio. So today I'm putting the 1MORE Aero up against the LG Tone Free T90 and the second gen AirPods Pro to figure out what we can expect from earbuds at different price points. My name is Andy and you're watching Andy's Tech Tone. So I've got three earbuds here which at first look could hardly be more alike. In fact, the LG T90 and the AirPods Pro are so confusingly similar in their design that I tried to put each set of earbuds back into the wrong case on several occasions. So these two are very compact with a short stem, while the Aero is a bit larger and longer. And yet the 1MORE buds weigh slightly less than the other two. All of the buds feel very solidly built, so again, at first look, you wouldn't necessarily think that there are such huge gaps in between their prices. And considering those price differences only, one might think that this comparison makes no sense whatsoever. But again, if we look behind those price tags and check the spec list of each, we will see that these earbuds have indeed more in common than simply their looks. Adaptive ANC, wireless charging, multi-point, smart sensors, touch controls, and of course spatial audio with head tracking are all on offer across the range here. And we will talk about all these, but first let's see how the buds fare when it comes to fit and comfort. So we are dealing with stem-style design buds, and as such, all three of them sit in my ears very nicely, and I also found them extremely comfortable to wear. Don't even ask me to choose one over the others, because they are all first class when it comes to long-term comfort in my ears. Your mileage might vary, of course, and due to their snug enough fit, they are all capable of handling some running and also some exercising of the low-intensity kind. And all three buds come with some sort of a protection against sweat and splashes, with the 1MORE being the most ruggedly sealed thanks to its IPX5 rating, while the other two have a more basic IPX4 rating only. However, the battery case of the AirPods Pro is also IPX4 rated, and that cannot be said about the other two. So let's talk a bit more about the cases. All three have a smallish footprint with slightly different proportions. The Apple case is slim and maybe it's the easiest to carry around in a tight pocket. The LG case is rounded and a bit more thick, while the 1MORE case is somewhere between the two. The glossy finish of the Apple case seems to be more prone to scratches, and I prefer the look of the matte coating of the other two anyway. And as far as general design goes, I have to say that my favorites are the 1MORE Aero buds and their case, with one caveat. I find taking the buds out of the 1MORE case kind of hard sometimes, and in that regard, the other two cases prove to be easier to use on the daily. And before we move on to discussing battery life, I have to clarify that I got both the LG and the 1MORE buds as a free sample for testing, but I paid for the AirPods Pro with my own money. I'm not getting paid by either manufacturers, nor do I have any affiliation with any of them, and I'm completely free to share my own thoughts with you, whatever they may be. With that out of the way, now let's see a quick summary of what you can expect from each bud in different scenarios as far as battery life is concerned. Unlike their stem, the single charge playtime is the shortest on the Aero, while the T90 earbuds can last the longest on their own with or without ANC. But the Apple case can recharge the buds 4 times compared to the 2 full charges the LG case can hold, and that gives Apple the edge in total use time. The 1MORE case sits in the middle with 3 extra charges. The aptX adaptive codec drains the battery a lot faster when it's in use on the LG T90, but the other 2 buds have no high-res codec support whatsoever. All 3 cases come with Qi wireless charging, and all 3 can offer quick charging as well, which means that 5 minutes inside the case can yield the buds an hour of use. So all three are pretty much the same from that perspective, but the cases could not be more different in terms of what other features they bring to the table. As long as you want to call it a feature, Apple is the only one without a USB-C port, as we still get Lightning with the AirPods Pro. That's a shame, but the MagSafe compatibility can soften the blow a little in my opinion. There is a wireless chip on board, and the Apple case also comes with a built-in speaker, both of which can help you locate the case should you ever misplace it. Apple added a lanyard loop to its case, and we get an IPX4 rating, neither of which can be found on the other two. Onto the LG T90, its case does not only come with a wireless chip of its own, but it can also be used as a Bluetooth transmitter, which can turn essentially any device with a headphone jack into a wireless source, and that feature can come in handy on a treadmill, for example. Older laptops can benefit from using the built-in transmitter as an external DAC when the USB Type-C cable is connected. And the LG case has another unique feature called UV Nano, which can kill 99.9% of bacteria on the speaker mesh and on the silicone ear tips after 5 minutes inside the case, as long as the feature is enabled in the LG Tone Free app. And the 1MORE case is really the only one of this trio which does not come with any extra functionality, so even if it is my personal favorite when it comes to design, the other two cases can offer far more advanced features. That's probably the only area where the more cost-effective approach of 1MORE becomes obvious. So summing up this section, if single charge playtime is of the utmost importance to you, then you should get the LG, but if total battery life is your main concern, then the AirPods Pro can offer you slightly more. As far as all those premium features go, you can take your pick, but I personally would call it a toss-up between the two. Next up is Bluetooth connection, which is solid and stable on all three buds regardless of the chip on board. The same features are available on all of them, including single bud mode and multi-point support. Multi-point works best on the AirPods Pro with seamless automatic switching between devices, but it will only work within the Apple ecosystem. And while setting up and using multipoint on both the LG and the 1MORE is less of a smooth experience, it works across all platforms and between all sorts of devices. And that can be a deal breaker for some users who, let's say, use iPhone but also have a Windows laptop at work and would like to use them both during the day. For multipoint only, I would pick the LG buds because on top of the automatic switching, you can also swap between 5 previously connected devices manually using the LG app. And that can give you great flexibility if you use multiple devices. The 1MORE Aero can also be paired to 2 devices at the same time, and you can switch between those two. The LG T90 is the only one that has a game mode switch in its smartphone app, but the AirPods Pro have also proved to be a great option for mobile gaming due to their low enough latency. On the other hand, the 1MORE Aero is a bit laggy. You can activate spatial audio and head tracking on both the 1MORE Aero and the T90, but it will not work on the Apple Buds when gaming. Or at least it did not work with the few games I tried, such as Call of Duty or the Asphalt 8 Plus. Not that you would want to turn your head away from the screen when playing COD, for example, but the virtual surround sound on the LG and the 1MORE can spice up the gaming experience a little. According to my tests, spatial audio does not really affect latency in this case, which makes the LG Buds a winner for gamers on both Android and iOS. There are multiple apps that can take full advantage of spatial audio in the App Store, but these are mostly audio apps and not necessarily games. The Google Play Store offers even less options, but honestly I didn't really put much effort into digging up games, as I'm no gamer myself, but if you know any good apps for either iOS or Android, just let us all know in the comments down below. But before you do that, let's do some mic testing. This is a quick audio sample from the built-in mics on the 1MORE Aero. So this is the audio quality you can expect when it comes to making a phone call in a quiet room. This is a quick audio sample from the built-in mics on the 2nd generation Apple AirPods Pro. So this is the audio quality you can expect when it comes to making a phone call in a quiet room. This is a quick audio sample from the built-in mics on the LG Tone Free T90. So this is the audio quality you can expect when it comes to making a phone call in a quiet room. And to put the microphones of the 1MORE Aero under a little bit more stress, here's a mic test outside with a slight breeze and some traffic noise around. And to put the microphones of the AirPods Pro under a little bit more stress, here's a mic test outside in slightly windy conditions and with some traffic noise around. And to put the microphones of the LG Tone Free T90 under a little bit more stress, here is a mic test outside with some slight breeze and traffic noise around. When it comes to touch controls, there are some fundamental differences between the earbuds. What all three of them have in common is that the touch and hold action is for cycling through the different ANC and ambient modes by default. We can find smart sensors for autoplay pose on each bud as well, but this is where the similarities end. On the 1MORE buds we have double and triple tap only, but at least both are customizable. On top of the double and triple tap, you also have a single tap option on the LG with custom settings for all the tapping actions, including long press. The AirPods Pro can also do single, double and triple tap, but I would rather call it a press instead of a tap, as you have to apply some force to squeeze the stem when using the controls. And the functionality of these controls cannot be remapped at all. Volume can be adjusted by a swiping up or down motion on each of the Apple buds, while you can assign it to any of the tapping actions on the LG. You can only have volume controls on the 1MORE by sacrificing one of the other functions, such as play, pause, track or voice controls. All in all, my absolute favorite is the LG with its full functionality and almost limitless customization. The built-in touchpads react quickly and they are a joy to use. The AirPods Pro comes in second with full functionality and a good usability overall. However, I find the volume controls a bit less comfortable to use than on the LG buds, where I chose the single tap action to get the job done, quick and easy. Also, the settings on iOS can offer barely any custom options, and there are no options on Android whatsoever due to the lack of a standalone app. The 1MORE Aero has an app that works on both Android and iOS, but the touch controls still feel limited thanks to the lack of a single tap option. But the possibility of adding it to the buds through a future firmware update is there, and that would easily catapult them in front of the AirPods Pro in my rankings. And as for the smartphone apps, well, again, the AirPods Pro comes with a deep integration into iOS, and all the settings are available there, but there is no option for Android users to tweak any of the settings on the Apple buds. However, the 1MORE Aero comes with a good smartphone app, which has a comprehensive set of features and options, including the custom touch control settings, a spatial audio switch, multiple EQ presets, and a 10-band custom equalizer. The smart loudness feature can compensate for the perceived lack of energy in the bass and treble. When listening at lower volumes, we can play around with the functionality of the smart sensors, and we can also enable multi-point use in the app. So it's a great app, but the LG Tone Free app takes it to another level with its clean and customizable layout, the Find My Earbuds feature, a game mode switch and multi-pairing, which allows you to switch manually between up to 5 previously connected devices. And even if I enjoy the system integration with the AirPods Pro and my iPhone a lot during everyday use, I will say that the LG T90 is by far my favorite of these three in terms of controls, features, and customization. But where LG cannot keep up with Apple is active noise cancelling. The AirPods Pro are clearly ahead of the bunch here. If I had to rank their ANC performance, and let's say the Bose QC Mark II are a 9, then I would give the AirPods Pro a solid 8, and both the LG and the 1MORE would get a 7. Where Apple delivers clearly better results is blocking out higher pitch noises, such as human chatter. Droning noises and low-frequency rumbles are attenuated well on all three buds, but still, even if by a hair only, the AirPods Pro comes out on top. Wind noise is handled best by the AirPods Pro, regardless of what mode we are in, but you can find a dedicated wind noise reduction mode in the 1MORE app, which can bring down wind noise significantly, but only at the expense of less effective noise cancelling altogether. Wind noise is probably worst on the LG buds across all modes, and we get no wind noise reduction mode there either. Transparency is the most natural sounding on the AirPods Pro by far, and the adaptive transparency mode works extremely well too. On the 1MORE Aero, noise levels get amplified a little with too much bass and a bit muffled highs. The LG buds do not amplify noises, but everything sounds a bit muffled again. And now we get to the part where we will discuss the sound quality of each of these bad boys. First, let's talk about traditional stereo listening just to establish a baseline, and then we can move on to spatial audio. In this test I used both Amazon Music on Android and Apple Music on iOS. Starting with the Aero, the EQ was set to default in the 1MORE app. The very same setting is called Studio on iOS for whatever reason, but this setting is as flat as you can get regardless. And the sound you get out of the 1MORE Aero is very pleasant to listen to, with its warm and punchy bass, clear mids and not overly bright highs. Soundstage is not as wide or airy as it is on the AirPods Pro, but it's wider than that of the LG T90. As for the T90, I selected the natural DSP setting in the Tone Free app for my tests, as I found it the most natural sounding of them all, but honestly, without these Meridian DSP modes, the LG buds can sound really flat and boring out of the box. I go into details regarding these DSP modes and different sound settings on the LG in its own review, but for now let's stick to the basics. The natural setting is still not the most natural to my ears, as there is clearly some processing going on. But the bass definitely has a good punch. It might not go as deep as the 1MORE Aero, but it's a bit more controlled and snappy in return. These buds have the most in-your-face, in-between-your-ears kind of sound, as the soundstage feels a bit compressed and forward. The T90 also have the least pronounced mid-range, which also means that both the bass and the highs are a bit boosted. But these buds can reveal probably the most musical detail in both the mid-range and the treble. That has something to do with the aptX adaptive codec, I believe, as on iOS, where all the buds use the AAC codec, the advantage is not quite as clear anymore. But regardless of the codec, this is my least favorite sound of the three. But again, there are so many different ways these buds can sound thanks to the Meridian DSP modes, all the different settings and the great custom EQ in the app. And this sort of a flexibility in tailoring the sound to our taste is the real strength of the LG T90 in my opinion. And even though I was using Android for the majority of these tests, so I had no chance to tweak the sound of the AirPods Pro, the Apple buds produced the most favorable sound. The bass might be the least powerful here, but it's still plenty strong and taut for my musical taste. But what I like the most about the AirPods Pro, when compared to the other two, is the more open and airy sound and the relatively wide soundstage they can create. Also, bass, mid-range and treble frequencies sound the most balanced here across the range. So even on Android, the AirPods Pro wins, with the Aero being second and the LG third. On iOS it barely changes, maybe the LG loses more points due to the lack of an advantage it had with its higher bitrate codec on Android. And finally, it's time to talk about spatial audio. But first let's make something clear. If you are subscribed to a streaming service which supports Dolby Atmos, such as Apple Music, Amazon Music, Tidal, Netflix or Disney+, then all you have to do is enable Dolby Atmos in the settings on both Android and iOS. You don't really need special spatial audio earbuds like our test subjects to enjoy Atmos encoded sound on your mobile phone, whether it's movies or music. But in order to fully experience the illusion of an extended virtual space, you will need these types of earbuds, and you will have to turn on spatial audio in their respective apps, or in case of the AirPods Pro, in the drop-down menu on iOS. So I was testing all the buds with Dolby Atmos enabled in Apple Music on iOS, simply because there is no way to activate Atmos on the AirPods Pro using Android. And I was mostly using songs that 1. Were mastered with Dolby Atmos in mind, and 2. I was not familiar with, just to avoid being biased towards how they are supposed to sound in normal stereo, if that makes any sense. But I also switched back and forth between stereo and Atmos versions of some of the songs just to check the tonality of certain instruments and voices. So out of the three buds, it was the LG T90 which I found the most processed, and the 1MORE buds were the least artificial sounding of them all. The AirPods Pro sit somewhere between the two. With that said, the Pros still delivered the largest space, just as they did with stereo sources. The LG steps up and gets close with its clear and spacious sound, but the 1MORE buds fail to keep up as far as stretching out the dimensions of the listening space. As I said, the Aero sounds the least processed, but they also sound closed in and less airy than the other two. I don't know if it's good or bad, because on one hand, the soundscape of the 1MORE Aero is still a bit closer to what I deem normal or natural, but if you are in this game for the extreme surround effect, the other two can give you more satisfying results. In the long run, I would probably opt for the more subtle effect of the 1MORE, but if you want to demo Dolby Atmos to your friends, the other two can easily deliver more of a wow factor. And the same applies to head tracking. Not that the Aero buds do not track your head movement properly, because they do without any lag or any quirks, but the AirPods Pro and especially the T90 take this to another level with a more aggressive approach, if you will. Let's say if you turn your head to the left, then the LG bud in your left ear will go almost completely silent and all sounds will come from the right bud only. At the same time, the AirPods Pro and the Aero retain more sound on the left side, creating a more natural effect in my opinion. Maybe it's the Apple buds that do this side-to-side shifting the best, but again, I like how natural the Aero can sound even when turning your head. And talking about turning your heads, I noticed a few things during my tests. Well, first of all, as I said, I don't like it when listening to music, so I would only use it with movies. But on the LG and on the 1MORE buds, you can only have spatial audio with active head tracking, while the AirPods Pro can offer you two separate options. One with the gyroscopes turned off, called Fix, so there will be no shifting in sound and space whatsoever, and another one with head tracking enabled. And that can make a huge difference in my opinion. Sure, the T90 and the Aero both have the advantage of offering all the features on Android and iOS as well, but it would also be nice to have the option to separate head tracking from spatial audio in the settings. Because even if I kind of got used to using Dolby Atmos over the last couple of days, when I was out and about I noticed that head tracking was all over the place trying to keep up with me walking and turning around on corners. Even stepping in the elevator and turning around would mess up the sound. Thankfully, the earbuds would always reset after a while, so the sound stage would slowly shift back to normal again. On the AirPods Pro, it takes about 7 to 8 seconds every time you turn. The LG can reset in about 6 seconds, and it can take up to 10 seconds for the 1MORE buds to realize that you changed your direction. And even though the actual shift is the least noticeable on the 1MORE, I would still prefer to have a switch to disable head tracking in certain scenarios. And one last thing I have to mention is spatial audio with stereo sources, because this is where these three earbuds can really differ from the non-spatial audio certified competition. The 1MORE Aero takes a subtle approach here once again, but it pays off as we barely get any distracting shift in tonality. We might lose some of the low-end energy, but we gain a bit more open space with better separation between instruments. The AirPods Pro adds a bit too much reverb to the sound, and since they can deliver a spacious enough soundstage by default, I would mostly listen to stereo sources with spatial audio disabled. When virtual sound is enabled in the LG app, the T90 gets a top-end boost, which can help with opening up the sound, so I would say it might be worth a shot, but only as long as you are fine with the head tracking. So, which one wins? Well, I would say it's the Apple buds as far as pure sound quality is concerned, but spatial audio will only work if you pair it with an iPhone. I like how toned down and subtle the 1MORE Aero is when it comes to spatial audio, but the LG T90 can clearly impress someone with its next gear approach. And now it's time to conclude this comparison. So we got 3 similarly designed and similarly spec'd earbuds, but they all come in at different price points, offering a totally different value proposition. For those with deep pockets and iPhones to carry around in those pockets, the obvious choice must be the 2nd generation AirPods Pro. The system integration, the features, the premium sound, and the excellent ANC would put them on the top shelf regardless of what other competitors I might compare them to. They are really one of the best earbuds available on the market right now. But spatial audio, most of the settings and some features are only available on iOS, and they cost €300, which is a lot more money than what you have to cough up for either of the other two. And as far as the 1MORE Aero and the LG Tone Free T90, that can be a tough choice. If you need all the bells and whistles the LG buds and especially their case have to offer, then by no means go for the T90, as you can hardly find another set of earbuds on the market with such a unique set of features. And especially if you want to use your earbuds in an office environment and you need the best phone call quality and the most flexible platform-agnostic multipoint, the LG buds are your best bet. However, if you want something more affordable and your main concern is the general performance of all the features that the buds have in common, such as ANC, spatial audio, or even multipoint, then I would say that having a closer look at the 1MORE Aero is definitely worth a shot. The stems on the Aero are a bit longer, while the single charge playtime is definitely shorter, but these buds still cost exactly half as much as the LG. And even if we forget about spatial audio for a second altogether and look at the 1MORE Aero as one of those $100 earbuds, they will still be very comparable to the very best in their own price range, and as you could see, they can hold their own quite well even when compared to earbuds, costing twice or even 3 times as much. But there is spatial audio, of course, which makes the 1MORE Aero a one and only option for the money at the time of making this video. Sure, it will change sooner or later as spatial audio is gaining popularity by the day, but for now, these earbuds can offer you the lowest cost of entry to that market. And this was my special spatial audio roundup. I know that there are other earbuds with similar features such as the Beats Fit Pro or the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, but given the obvious similarities in the overall design of these 3 we discussed today, I thought I would leave others out of this one. But I will feature the Beats Fit Pro in my upcoming Best Sport Earbuds comparison, and also the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro will be one of the contenders in my Best ANC Earbuds comparison. So if you are interested in either of those 2 videos or earbuds, then please subscribe to my channel, and if you like this one, then a thumbs up would also be much appreciated. Thank you for watching. See you next time.